Hi, I am back with more content for my multi-video series on ancient Egypt. So we last left off talking a about the multi-site use of the ancient Egyptians in terms of their landscape, in particular at the site of a Abydos. So one of the things that you see at Abydos and at other sites in Egypt is land becomes reconceptualized and areas of sites become reconceptualized as other things. So I talked about how in the desert part of Abydos, you have the royal burials and the royal tombs. By the time of the New Kingdom, at least one of those tombs, so at least one of the tombs in this chunk here, becomes re-envisioned and reconceptualized as the burial place of Osiris, one of the deities of ancient Egypt that has to do with the afterlife and what happens to you after death. And so beginning in the New Kingdom and for long after that, you have a Bidos, at least this general area of Abydos turn from a royal burial site into a pilgrimage site. And what you see, and that's partly why I did this graphic, is this gives you a better idea of what that pilgrimage route was. So the royal tombs of the early dynasties, which because Abydos saw so many uses over such a different chunk of time, there's the overall site of Abydos, and then there's different archaeological sites within Abydos. So one of those archaeological sites within Abydos is the al-Qa'ab, which is the early burial ground, and it translates to roughly field of pots, and it's called that because of the pilgrimage status that it later developed. People would leave offerings, partly in the form of ceramics, and they left so many that ceramic shards, and parts of pots still cover a good chunk of al-Qa'ab or al-Qa'ab on the ground. So we have this pilgrimage route develop from the New Kingdom and onward, from that tomb that becomes reconceptualized as the tomb of Osiris in this general region, to this part of Abydos here, and to the non-royal burial grounds here. Saqqara is another site where you see continuous land use over many different parts over literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years, including now. So these two graphics are showing you aspects of that. Saqqara as a site is in Lower Egypt, in the Delta, so here. And Saqqara, similar to Abydos, there's the region of Saqqara, but then there's separate archaeological sites within Saqqara itself. So Saqqara first sees major state use in the Old Kingdom with royal pyramid burial complexes. So that's where we have some of here, like the Pyramid of Unis, the Pyramid of Tedi, and then a little bit before that, which the Step Pyramid of Dozier. But then it also has other uses, and particularly in the New Kingdom, it sees burial usage, but non-royal burial usage. And some of those New Kingdom non-royal burials seem to cluster in areas of the Old Kingdom royal pura amidst. Um, and what Saqqara is also famous for, particularly post New Kingdom, is it was one of the main animal cult sites of Egypt as well. So you have burials not just of humans, but you have burials of different animals that seem to have served as votive offerings. So you have dogs, baboons, ibises, hawks, and then you have late period um, temples, so like Nektana Bodhi II, and then even going even further in time to Egypt's Coptic period, you have a monastery that is built in Saqqara as well. So these, and that's true for a lot of the parts of Egypt, is you'll see Christian churches or monasteries in a lot of these pagan areas as Christianity comes in. So this is just showing where some of those New Kingdom cemeteries are. So the uh, dark black ones. This is pyramid complexes that were originally built for Old Kingdom rulers that New Kingdom tombs were later built on. And this whole region, um, this part of this region and then extending up to there, this is known as the Pyramid Fields, because this was the kind of main royal burial grounds in the Old Kingdom, which stretches from Giza, Saqqara, Abu Sir, and basically it's because it's Memphis and then the desert side of the bank. So this is another map of Saqqara that again shows those different chunks of usage. And then Giza has a kind of a similar thing going on. So Giza is on the modern Giza plateau, but Cairo as the urban population of Cairo has expanded, they've literally come onto the desert side and right up to the pyramids themselves. So the for the ancient Egyptians, there was a degree of separation between um, what they called Memphis and the Giza Plateau that is no longer there. So this is a full graphic of the Giza Plateau, and I chose it because it includes modern features and modern land usages. Um, so the three main royal or the main Egyptian monuments on the Giza Plateau are royal pyramid complexes. So the pyramid complex of Menkaure, Khafre, and Khufu from the Old Kingdom, mainly Fourth Dynasty. But then particularly for Khufu and Khafre, um, during their chunk of the Old Kingdom, the courtiers and kind of members of the royal court seem to want to be buried in physical proximity to their ruler. So that's why you also have these mastabas from the Eastern and Western Cemetery that are courtiers and members of the elite from the time periods or from the lifetimes of these rulers that they wanted to be buried physically near them. And when they were digging or when they were making a soccer field for modern Cairo and the Giza Plateau, they actually did find builders' quarters. So people who built the pyramids where they actually lived. And so that is what that chunk there is. And then in terms of modern roads, you can see the modern road here. And then to Cairo here. So if you would keep driving off the map, you would eventually reach Cairo, or you would reach Cairo. Um, and then we also have a modern village there too. And there's cemeteries that are currently in use, I think, around the Giza Plateau as well, because people who live in modern day Cairo still need somewhere to rest after they've passed. This is from Google Earth, and it kind of shows that urban sprawl and urban development. Yeah, modern this cemetery. And then there's, tombs from ancient Egypt there. So this is from Google Earth, and I've just kind of zoomed in a little bit. So we have the Giza necropolis / plateau. So this chunk here is this part of the map roughly here. And then we have further urban growth and growth of Cairo out in the desert here. And then the floodplain, the edges of the floodplain here. But you can see this is all modern Cairo. So when you go to visit the pyramids, that's why if if you approach from the Cairo side, you literally have like McDonald's and like fast food and like modern infrastructure right like up against the pyramids because the urban sprawl has just extended so far out. This is back to Bidos, and it is showing you in a little bit more detail both the uh, the pilgrimage path that you see in the New Kingdom here, the Nile cultivation zone and modern villages, And then the pharaonic remains, including down to here. So this just kind of gives you an idea of the balance and kind of the dance that modern Egypt has to do. It's protecting its ancient sites, but also serving the needs of their modern population and the people who live there now. And it's not always an easy balance. So this is Abydos from Google Earth, just to kind of give you an idea of that modern usage and ancient usage. So we have the modern delta or the modern floodplain here where, they're growing food and um, resources for modern day Egypt and people are living. And then we have, the desert and the modern infrastructure that is there. So we have a high school, but then this is we have a mosque, and but then over to this left we have the pharaonic temple. So and you can just see the kind of mud brick foundations there, uh, with their, or sorry, the mud brick foundations there, because this is the temple of by Ados. And then this is a still at Abydos, but it is showing you that pre-dynastic to early dynastic burial site of al-Quahab. So you can see that there, and then the modern farms and uh, area of modern day Abydos there. This is from the Fayum region, from the site of El Shit, but I chose it because it illustrates a similar principle where we have a Middle Kingdom royal pyramid here from ancient Egypt because one of the forms of, or one of the shapes of royal tomb that rulers used in the Middle Kingdom was the pyramid. They just didn't build them with as strong of materials as the Old Kingdom pyramids. So a lot of the foundations have not really survived to time. And so a lot of the Middle Kingdom pyramids look like this, where it's kind of a pyramid shape, but it's really not done all that well. And then a modern cemetery, literally right in that same chunk of land, so again, 1,000 years later, people are still using this area to bury their dead. I don't know off the top of my head if this is a cemetery that's still being used in use through the 21st century, or if it stopped being used in like 1910. But the point still stands. So. And this is just a map to kind of give you an idea of where that Fayum region is. So it's in Lower Egypt, and it is in a Fayum region, which starting in the Middle Kingdom, the rulers put resources towards draining this area because there was a lake there to increase arable land. So this Middle Kingdom royal pyramid is somewhere in this region here, because I think it's one of the ones at La Hoon. So this is back to Saqqara. And again, it just sort of shows you that thousands of years of use from the old kingdom here all the way to new kingdom, thousands and thousands of years later, and then um, hundreds and hundreds of years later, the Christian monastery that was also built on the site there. And then this is part of the animal cults and pilgrimage industry that developed. I think it started in the late New Kingdom, but it really took off in the late period. And this is from Google Earth. It is a zooming in of part of Saqqara. So again, where people live in terms of the arable land, the area where you can grow food. So you have houses, you have a pool, you have crops, and then you have into this area here, you're starting to get into the pharaonic ancient Egyptian remains once you leave the cultivatable zone and kind of get out into the desert. This is something that I will go back to because I want to be respectful to the people that are depicted in this photo. So I'm going to pause it here.